Stop. Yeah, I'm not really feeling it with the intro right now, as today I'm going to talk about a Pinkie Pie episode that is not really good. So a while back in season 8, an episode that you can see from the title of the video turned out to be one of the lowest points for my favorite character, Pinkie Pie. To be quite frank, I thought I was going to do this kind of video with Honest Apple, but this? Oh boy. That intrigued me beat me to it, so I don't need to repeat that. Okay, let's talk about over-exaggeration. Throughout the entire series, we know that each of the main 6, or by this point, the main 8, has specific traits that's always shown off in every episode. Now, this has led to many debates saying that the show relies on them way too much to the point of excusing bad writing, and I could sorta agree at times. Now, I wouldn't have an issue with it as long as the characters have good setups on why they are acting this way. Yeah, I can point to season 6 being the biggest culprit in dumbing all the characters down except for Starlight, which she was a new character at the time, but after that, I think the show went back on track and had less repeating traits, or at the very least, set them up in a way that makes them understandable. This episode, on the other hand, not only exaggerates the character so much, but it ended up throwing all the potential growth to a character that could have easily made her into a very relatable, down-to-earth person. This is where I come to say that Pinkie Pie was at her worst here. Now, the entire episode focuses on Pinkie Pie practicing with the new instrument called the Yakity. Okay, let's get some positives out of the way. I love that we learn a little bit more of the yak culture. It's cool that they have their own kind of instruments compared to the ponies, which is just everyday ones that we know of. That and the fact that AJ is the one to point out Twilight's dumb idea to use a spell rather than being honest like in horseplay is such a nice touch. Just wish we got this AJ instead of the Honest Apple AJ. But this is where everything went downhill. You see, Pinkie Pie really loves playing this Yakity throughout the first act. Now here's where they set up the conflict, and quite frankly, I thought it started off good. I was under the impression that it will lead to a really good payoff later down the episode, but then I noticed something that really annoyed me. Okay, so you know how Honest Apple has the issue of how AJ's criticism is really hurting ponies around her? Here it's the exact opposite, as Pinkie got some harsh criticism and began to be a fragile little child. Look, I really hate saying that she is a child since, you know, she's supposed to be the most happy-go-lucky character, but she is, and oh boy did they do whatever they can to make her feel in the right. This is where my main problem lies. Throughout the entire episode, the rest of the main cast are treated in the wrong for saying that her music sucks. You can't tell me that in any way she's supposed to be the innocent one while her friends are just mean? Yeah, no, it doesn't really work that way. What honestly bugs me the most is that Pinkie Pie acts like a sad, broken girl who had the world against her, and the way it portrays that just makes her even more of a spoiled brat. This is where people claim this is an exaggeration, and I'm one of them. Pinkie being the happy party pony, she needs to always get her way or else she will act like this. This episode just ends up highlighting this the most, and the funny thing is, Pinkie Pie had a long legacy of good episodes despite this trait. Party of One, Pinkie's Pride, and hell, Mod Couples if you want an example in the same season. I could even say that the Pinkie Pie episodes in season 5 were better handled despite them being massive disappointments and tend to lean on the exaggeration. Really, the setup doesn't win over favors for Pinkie. Yet it gets even worse when halfway through the episode, the friends want to show Pinkie that she's still awesome at other things besides the Yakity. Now this is where I thought they finally gonna get everything together. I mean, it does hint at a good lesson at first, and her friends did what they could to show that. Then we get the montage of Pinkie being sad, which leads to Twilight trying to remind Pinkie that she's a good friend. Then the final act happened, and this is where the episode dropped the bomb. Okay, so Pinkie just went ahead and moved out without them knowing, which that in and of itself was pretty dumb. What follows is every pony trying to apologize for what they said, and this right here led to one of the most shittiest, dumbest morals that the show has ever put out, and keep in mind folks, Honest Apple was still fresh in people's memories at this point. Basically, they admit they were wrong for criticizing her, that she should keep playing because it makes her happy. Okay, now, besides the obvious telling that you should never criticize someone to make them sad, I could sorta see what the episode's trying to say. You shouldn't stop because you still love doing the things you do. Hell, there are many things I wanted to do despite my lack of talent, such as drawing and making cartoons. However, that does not mean people don't have the right to criticize you when you do this in public. Are you honestly telling me that this episode prioritized Pinkie's feelings over trying to understand that maybe she isn't good at everything? Do you see the problem I have here? Does this bring up how people have problems with the show being more unfairly realistic? And while that is aimed at the new seasons, the earlier seasons did have this issue as well. In fact, you could say the entire show has this mindset, but I would argue it managed to at least support the good morals and always does the positive outlook in life in a realistic way. Well, as realistic as a show for candy-colored ponies could get. But the moment they said that criticizing is wrong, this is where I have an issue. What is annoying to me is that Pinkie Pie had episodes dealing with harsher topics, and yes, I know some of them are not holding up well today, but they don't go as far as making her the only winner of those situations. But to just have an episode saying criticism is no good, it kinda pushes my buttons a bit. Honestly, they missed the chance of giving a good lesson of not being always perfect. Hell, had that been the moral, I think all the complaints I had with this episode would have been just nitpicks. Listen people, I get it, there are things that we want to do and we dream of doing those things. But if we live in a bubble where no one can outright say their honest opinions, how can you improve to be better? Hell, I wouldn't be here today had it not been for some harsh words. I mean seriously, have you seen my earliest videos? And before this, I was gonna give you the very old script of this one before throwing that in the digital garbage after listening to it for a couple of times. It was not very good and it calls back to the old days where I don't know any better. What I'm trying to say is that criticism, regardless of how mean sounding it is, must be taken into account. If you truly love something and you want to keep on going, you need to hear what others say about your performance. I found it funny that both Honest Apple and this deals with criticism and yet fails on how to deal with it. And what's even more funny is that we had an episode called Sounds of Silence that actually deals with this a lot better. At least Honest Apple gave us this.
Much better.
That never gets old. But in all seriousness, if you want to know what I would rate this, I give it an 11 out of 30. It had the potential to be a really good episode, showing that it's okay to not be perfect at everything. Instead, they went with criticism is bad and you should keep going despite sucking. What a low point for Pinkie, but that seems to be season 8 in a nutshell. Starting off with a high, but then ended with a low. But hey, it's my honest opinion and I'm sticking to it. I'm Mark, aka the Wolf Pony, and I hope the next day will be even better. See ya.